Hold my hand and open your eyes." The blind millionaire couldn't believe it until he saw the miracle. Michael Anderson was in his office when he felt small, desperate hands clutching his arm. The tearful voice of a child shouted words that chilled his blood, even in the permanent darkness he had lived in for 15 years. "Sir, please, you have to listen to me. The lady is going to jump off the building. She's up there crying and saying she's going to jump," the boy said between sobs. Michael was confused. How had that child entered his office on the 20th floor? And who was this woman he was talking about? "Boy, who are you? How did you get in here?" Michael asked, trying to orient himself by the sound of the voice. "My name is Tommy, sir. I shine shoes downstairs in the building. I saw the lady go up to the rooftop crying. She was screaming your name, saying it was her fault, that you were going to lose everything because of her." Michael's heart raced. Only one person would say his name like that. "Emily? Are you talking about Emily?" "I don't know her name, sir, but she has long black hair and was wearing a blue dress. She was screaming, 'Daddy, forgive me, Daddy, forgive me.'" Michael's legs went weak. Emily was his only daughter, 28 years old, who had managed the family business ever since he lost his sight. For the past few months, she had been acting strange, avoiding conversations about the company. "Boy, take me there, quick." Tommy took Michael's hand and guided him through the room. It was the first time in 15 years that Michael had left his office without his assistant or driver. His steps were uncertain, stumbling over furniture, but the urgency in the boy's voice pushed him forward. "This way, sir. Watch out for the door. Now we're going to the elevator." As they rode up to the rooftop, Michael tried to understand what was happening. Emily had always been a devoted daughter, taking over the business when he went blind after the car accident. The company was still doing well, or at least that's what she always told him. "Is she far from the edge?" Michael asked, trying to keep the desperation out of his voice. "She was when I came down to get you." But she was talking to herself, crying really hard. The elevator stopped, and Tommy led him down a hallway Michael didn't know well. The wind from the rooftop hit his face as the door opened. "Emily! Emily, where are you?" Michael shouted. "Daddy?" Emily's voice came trembling from somewhere ahead. "Daddy, you shouldn't be here. Go back inside." "Emily, tell me where you are. Come here with me." "I can't, Daddy. I ruined everything. The company. I lost it all." Michael felt the world spin. Tommy held his hand tightly, whispering directions softly. "To the left, sir. She's near the railing." "Emily, whatever it is, we'll fix it. Come here, sweetheart." "There's no fixing it, Daddy. I took the emergency fund money, $300,000, all of it." The confession hit Michael like a punch to the gut. That money was meant for his medical expenses and the special care his blindness required. "What did you take that money for, Emily?" "For a doctor, a specialist who said he could cure your blindness. Dr. Richard Parker. He said he had a new experimental treatment, that in 6 months you'd see again." "And where is this doctor now?" "He's gone, Daddy. He was a fraud. He took everything and disappeared, and that's not all." Her voice broke completely. "The company is bankrupt. There are debts I couldn't pay. You'll be left with nothing. I destroyed our family." Michael moved toward her voice, with Tommy guiding him carefully. When he finally touched his daughter's arm, he pulled her away from the railing and hugged her tightly. "Emily, listen to me. I'd rather stay blind forever than lose you. Money we can get back, but I only have one daughter." Emily collapsed into tears in her father's arms. Tommy stood there quietly by his side, holding Michael's free hand as if trying to give him strength. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. In the days that followed, Michael discovered the extent of the problems. Emily had hidden from him that the company had been struggling for over a year. She'd tried to handle it alone, but the debts only grew. The scam by the fake doctor was the last straw. Tommy started showing up at the building every day. Michael learned the boy was only 12 and shined shoes in the square in front of the building to support himself and his sick grandfather. "What about your parents, Tommy?" Michael asked one afternoon when the boy visited. "I don't have parents, Mr. Anderson. It's just me and my grandpa Harold. He's a little sick and can't work anymore." "And where do you live?" "In a small rented room near the station. It's not very big, but we manage." Michael grew thoughtful. That boy had saved his daughter's life and now came every day to keep him company, telling him about the street activity, describing the passers-by, making him feel less isolated. "Tommy, tell me something. How did you know Emily was my daughter?" "Oh, Mr. Anderson, I've seen you two for a long time. Every morning she arrives by car and always looks up at your office window. And when she leaves, sometimes she's crying. I figured something was wrong." "Why did you get involved? It could have been dangerous." "My grandpa always taught me that when you can help someone, you should. He says life's already too hard for us to just watch others suffer." Those words struck Michael deeply. In 15 years of blindness, he'd isolated himself from the world, focusing only on his own problems. That child, with so little in life, had taught him a lesson in humanity. A week later, Emily confessed she'd lost her job as a regional manager at a multinational company, even before fully taking over her father's business. She'd been pretending to work, leaving home every day so he wouldn't worry. "I didn't want you to know I'd been fired, Dad. I tried to run the company alone, but I didn't have enough experience." "Why were you fired, sweetheart?" "They found out I was diverting part of my salary to pay for alternative treatments for your blindness. They were expensive consultations with doctors from other states. I spent everything I had, and then some." Michael realized Emily had been carrying too much guilt and responsibility. She'd sacrificed her own career trying to find a cure for him. "Emily, I never asked you to give up your life for me." "But I wanted to, Dad. You lost your sight because of me. If I hadn't insisted we go to that party on that rainy night, the accident would never have happened." It was the first time Emily had put that 15-year-old guilt into words. Michael hugged her, finally understanding the weight she'd carried. During these conversations, Tommy stayed quiet in a corner of the room, sometimes playing with objects, always respectful. Michael began noticing how bright the boy was. He asked sharp questions about business and showed impressive maturity for his age. "Tommy, where do you go to school?" "I don't anymore, Mr. Anderson. I stopped in 5th grade to work. My grandpa couldn't work anymore, and someone had to support us." "Would you like to go back to school?" "I'd love to, sir, but I need to work. And private school is expensive, public school is too far from home." Michael made a decision. Even with the financial troubles, he couldn't let that boy waste his intelligence for lack of opportunity. "What if I helped you study at a good school? Would you accept?" "You'd do that for me?" Tommy's eyes sparkled. "It would be my pleasure, son. You helped me when I needed it most." Emily, who was listening to the conversation, smiled for the first time in weeks. Seeing her father showing interest in others again was a sign he was emotionally recovering. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He kept thinking of solutions to their financial problems. The company had a solid reputation in the market, built over 30 years. Maybe there was a way to restructure the debts. The next day, he asked Emily to call his old accountant and lawyer for a meeting. For the first time in 15 years, Michael wanted to take an active role in business decisions. "Mr. Anderson, the situation is complicated, but not irreversible," said the accountant, Dr. Wilson. "The debts are high, but if we can renegotiate the terms and sell some non-essential assets, we can keep the company running. How much time do we have?" "About 3 months to present a viable plan to the creditors." Michael knew it wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long while, he felt motivated to fight. Tommy's presence and the need to take better care of Emily had awakened a strength in him he didn't know he still had. Over the following weeks, Michael immersed himself in the company's restructuring. Emily worked as his assistant, reading reports and describing charts and spreadsheets. Tommy showed up every afternoon after work, always curious about what they were doing. "Mr. Anderson, what's cash flow?" Tommy asked one afternoon. Michael patiently explained, surprised by how easily the boy grasped complex concepts. Emily noticed too, and began including Tommy in the explanations. "He's really smart, Dad. He learns faster than most interns we've ever had." One afternoon, Tommy arrived more agitated than usual. "Mr. Anderson, can I tell you something?" "Of course, Tommy." I overheard a conversation today in the square. Two men in suits were talking about your company. One said he'd get it for cheap when it went bankrupt. A chill ran down Michael's spine. Do you remember anything else from the conversation? One of them mentioned a name, Reynolds. Said the plan was working perfectly. The name made Michael shudder. Victor Reynolds was his old business partner, with whom he'd split ways 5 years ago over disagreements about the company's direction. Back then, Reynolds wanted to expand into areas Michael considered too risky. Emily, call Dr. Wilson. I want him to investigate all financial operations from the last 2 years. I have a suspicion. The investigation revealed something shocking. Many of the debts from recent months were the result of contracts signed by shell companies linked to Reynolds. He'd used insider information about the company to create an artificial debt crisis. Dad, does this mean we've been sabotaged, Emily? Reynolds planned our bankruptcy to buy the company for next to nothing. Michael felt a mix of anger and relief. Anger at being betrayed, relief at discovering they weren't incompetent, just victims of a malicious scheme. But how do we prove it, Dad? We'll need help. Dr. Wilson has contacts who can dig deeper. Tommy, who'd been listening quietly, timidly raised his hand. Mr. Anderson, can I say something? Of course, Tommy. My grandfather worked as an accountant for years before he got sick. He always said when someone tries to hide something with money, they always leave a trail. Maybe he can help. Michael hesitated. He didn't want to involve more people in his problems, especially a sick elderly man. I don't want to bother your grandfather, Tommy. He likes feeling useful, sir, and he knows a lot of people who work with paperwork and documents. Emily supported the idea. Dad, it doesn't hurt to try. And Tommy's right. Sometimes someone with experience can spot things others miss. By late afternoon, Michael agreed to meet Tommy's grandfather. Emily went with them, driving the car to their neighborhood. The small apartment was on the second floor of an old building with no elevator. Emily quietly described to Michael that the place was simple but very clean and organized. Old Harold was a 67-year-old man with white hair and sharp eyes. Despite his illness, diabetes that affected his mobility, his mind was sharp. So you're the Michael my grandson talks so much about, old Harold said, shaking Michael's hand. Tommy comes home every day telling me about your conversations. He's learning a lot. Old Harold, Tommy saved me, literally, and now he's helping me again. That boy has a good heart. He's been working since he was little to support me, never complained. Michael felt a tightness in his chest. While he had spent 15 years lamenting his blindness, this child had taken on adult responsibilities without losing his generosity. Old Harold examined the documents Emily brought, even with his vision impaired by diabetes. His observations were precise and revealing. Look here, Michael. These signatures. I recognize this handwriting. It's Reynolds. I worked with him about 10 years ago at an accounting firm. He was always a bit dishonest. Are you sure? Absolutely. And I'll tell you more. These shell companies follow the same naming pattern he used back then. He must be using the same crooked accountant as always. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. With old Harold's information, Dr. Wilson was able to compile a complete dossier on Reynolds' scheme. It was enough to void the fraudulent contracts and even sue the former partner for damages, but the process would be long, and Michael needed immediate solutions to keep the business running. That's when Tommy had a surprising idea. Mr. Michael, what if we told the story to people? My grandfather always said that when you're in the right, you shouldn't be ashamed to speak the truth. What do you mean, Tommy? You have a lot of clients who like you, right? If they knew you were being hurt by someone trying to steal the company, maybe they'd help. Emily thought the idea was interesting. Dad, Tommy's right. The company has 30 years of good service. Our clients trust you. Michael decided to try. They prepared a letter explaining the situation and sent it to key clients and suppliers. The response was surprising. Several clients offered to prepay orders, suppliers agreed to extend deadlines, and some even volunteered to testify about Michael's integrity in any legal proceedings. "Dad, look at this," Emily said, reading the incoming messages. "Mr. Thompson from the metal shop said he'll prepay 3 months of orders. Mrs. Johnson from the clothing factory wants to pay her debt up front." Michael was moved. In 15 years of isolation, he had forgotten how many solid relationships he had built over his life. With the client's support and the evidence against Reynolds, the situation began to turn around. But Michael knew he needed to make deep changes in how he lived and ran his business. "Emily, I want you to officially take over as company president. Dad, I don't have enough experience. And after everything that's happened, you have something more important than experience. You have heart, and you'll learn the rest. I'll be here to guide you, but it's time for you to truly lead." Emily hesitated, but eventually agreed. Michael felt he was making the right decision. His daughter was smart and dedicated. She just needed confidence. During this time, Tommy kept coming to the office every afternoon. Michael had managed to enroll him in a nearby private school and was impressed with the boy's progress. "Mr. Anderson, my math teacher said I could try for a scholarship to an even better school next year." "That's wonderful, Tommy. You deserve every opportunity. But I don't want to stop coming here. I like listening to the conversations about the company." Michael smiled. Tommy had become much more than an acquaintance. He was like the son he never had. 3 months later, the lawsuit against Reynolds was moving forward in court, and the company had stabilized. Emily was gaining confidence as president, and business was growing again. Then, one Friday afternoon, everything changed again. Michael was in the office with Emily when they heard hurried footsteps in the hallway. The door swung open, and Tommy's desperate voice filled the room. "Mr. Anderson, Emily, please, you have to help me." "What happened, Tommy?" Michael asked, concerned. "It's my grandfather. He got sick in the middle of the night. He's in the hospital, but the doctors say he needs emergency surgery. On his heart." "All right, son, we'll take care of it. How much is the surgery?" $50,000, sir. I don't even have 1,000. Michael didn't hesitate. "Emily, call the hospital. We'll pay for the surgery." "Dad, with the company's situation..." "Emily, this boy saved our family. Now it's our turn to save his." Tommy started crying. "Mr. Anderson, I'll pay back every cent. I'll work my whole life if I have to." "Tommy, family doesn't owe family anything." That word, family, made the boy cry even harder. He threw himself into Michael's arms as he would with a father. The surgery was successful, but old Harold would need time to recover. Michael insisted Tommy stay at his house for a few weeks so he wouldn't have to juggle school, work, and the hospital. Emily prepared a guest room for him. It was the first time the Anderson home had welcomed a child, and the boy's presence brought a new energy to the place. Over breakfast, Tommy talked about school, his favorite subjects, and the friends he was making. Michael listened with a smile. "Mr. Anderson, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course, son." "Did you ever want more kids besides Emily?" Michael was silent for a moment. "I really did, Tommy. Your mother, Emily's mother, she died when Emily was little. Cancer. After that, I kind of closed my heart to the idea of family. And after the accident? After the accident, I thought I had nothing left to give anyone, that I was just a burden. But you're not a burden, Mr. Anderson. You've taught me more in 2 months than I've learned my whole life." Those words touched Michael deeply. Tommy had shown him he still had so much to give, that his blindness didn't diminish his worth as a person. A week later, something unexpected happened. Michael was in his office when his lawyer, Dr. Wilson, arrived with important news. "Michael, we've reached a settlement in the lawsuit against Reynolds. Aside from voiding the fraudulent contracts, he'll pay $200,000 in damages." "That's great, Dr. Wilson. And there's more. His company is being investigated for other similar crimes. It seems he's done this to several people. You may be entitled to even greater compensation." Michael couldn't believe it. After so many months of hardship, things were finally falling into place. That evening, he gathered Emily and Tommy to share the news. "From now on, our financial situation is settled," said Michael. "We can focus on rebuilding our lives." "Dad, I was thinking about something," said Emily. "What if we offered old Harold a job at the company? Even with his illness, He has valuable experience. That's a great idea, Emily. Tommy was emotional. Would you really do that? Of course, son. Your grandfather helped us when we needed it. Now it's our turn to give back. But life still had more surprises in store for them. The following week, while Michael was at the office, he received an unexpected call. It was from a specialist in vision problems. Mr. Anderson, my name is Dr. Stephen Mitchell. I'm an ophthalmologist and I'd like to speak with you about your case. Doctor, I've seen many specialists over the years. They all said there's nothing to be done. I understand, Mr. Anderson, but I'd like you to give me a chance to examine you. I have a suspicion about your diagnosis. Michael hesitated. After the scam Emily had fallen for, he was wary of any doctor promising miracle cures. How did you hear about my case, doctor? Through Mr. Harold Perry. He came to see me at the hospital where I work. He said you're like a son to his grandson and asked me to give a second opinion about your blindness. Michael was surprised. Had old Harold taken the initiative on his own? How do you know old Harold? He's been my patient for a few years due to his diabetes. When he found out I was an ophthalmologist, he told me about you. He asked me to review your old tests if possible. And what did you conclude? I'd rather not speculate without examining you in person, but based on old Harold's account of how the accident happened and the symptoms you had at the time, I have a different hypothesis than the original diagnosis. Michael felt his heart race, but tried to temper his expectations. Doctor, I don't want to face another disappointment. I've suffered enough from false promises. I completely understand, Mr. Anderson. I'm not promising anything. I'd just like to do a full exam and give you my honest opinion. If I can't help, at least you'll know for sure there's nothing to be done. After a long conversation with Emily and Tommy, Michael decided to accept, but he made it clear he didn't want to raise false hopes. The exam was scheduled for the following week. Dr. Stephen was a 45-year-old man with a solid reputation in the medical field. Unlike the fraudster who had deceived Emily, he worked at a respected hospital and didn't promise miraculous results. During the exam, Dr. Stephen asked many questions about the accident, the initial treatment, and the medications Michael had taken. Mr. Anderson, based on today's tests and the information I've gathered, I believe you may have been the victim of a misdiagnosis. What do you mean, doctor? You were diagnosed with irreversible optic nerve damage, correct? Yes, that's what all the doctors said. But based on today's exams, your optic nerves are in much better condition than they should be if the damage were truly irreversible. I believe the issue may be neurological, related to the brain trauma from the accident. And what does that mean? That it might be treatable. It's not a guarantee, but there's a possibility of partial or even full recovery of your vision. Michael felt a mix of hope and fear. Hope at the chance to see again, fear of another disappointment. What would the treatment be, doctor? A combination of specific medications to stimulate neurological connections and visual therapy sessions to reactivate the brain functions related to vision. It's a long process, it could take months, and there are no guarantees of success. And the risks? The medications might cause side effects like dizziness, nausea, and headaches. In rare cases, they could lead to more serious problems. That's why I need you to understand, this is an attempt, not a promise. Michael asked for a few days to think it over. He talked at length with Emily, Tommy, and old Harold. Dad, what is your heart telling you? Emily asked. I'm scared, sweetheart, scared of being disappointed again, but I'm also scared of not trying and regretting it later. Tommy, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. Mr. Anderson, remember when you said sometimes we have to be brave enough to fight for what we want? I do, son. Then be brave. If it doesn't work, at least we'll know we tried. The wisdom of that 12-year-old boy once again amazed Michael. He decided to go through with the treatment. Dr. Stephen explained that the process would be divided into stages. First, a round of medications to prepare his neurological system. Then, if Michael responded well, they would begin the specific therapies. I want all of you to know I might get worse before I get better, Michael told his family. And it might not work. I don't want anyone to place too much hope in this. But deep down, Michael was more hopeful than he wanted to admit. The possibility of seeing Emily's face again, of laying eyes on the boy who had become like a son to him, was almost irresistible. The treatment began on a Monday morning. Michael took the first medications under medical supervision to monitor for allergic reactions. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. In the first few days, Michael only felt the side effects: dizziness, nausea, and a constant headache. Dr. Stephen had warned him this would be normal. Tommy was always there, holding his hand during the toughest moments, telling him stories from school to distract him. Mr. Anderson, my English teacher asked us to write about our family. Can I write about you and Emily? Of course, son. We're your family now. And you're my family too, right? Of course you are, Tommy. You're the son I always wanted. That heartfelt confession moved everyone. Emily, who had been listening by the door, came in and joined the hug. Now we're a complete family, she said. After 2 weeks of medication, Michael began to notice some changes. Not in his vision, but in how he perceived light and shadows. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Dr. Stephen, is it normal to feel like there's more brightness, even if I can't see anything specific? Yes, Mr. Anderson. That could mean the neurological connections are responding to the treatment. It's a good sign. Hope began to grow, but Michael tried to stay realistic. He had learned not to stake all his happiness on the possibility of a cure. During this time, old Harold fully recovered from his surgery and started working at the company as a financial consultant. His experience was invaluable, and he felt useful again. Michael, I want to thank you for everything you've done for my family, old Harold said during one of his visits to the office. Old Harold, it was Tommy who saved my family. We're the ones who should be thanking you. That boy has a special heart. He lost his parents too young, but he never lost his kindness. How did his parents die? Michael asked. It was a question he had never asked before, respecting Tommy's privacy. Car accident, when he was 5. I've raised him since then. It wasn't easy, especially when I started getting sick, but he never complained. He always said we had to take care of each other. Michael was moved by the story. Tommy had gone through a loss similar to his own, but had reacted completely differently. Instead of shutting himself off from the world, the boy had opened up to help others. After a month of treatment, Dr. Stevens scheduled new tests to evaluate the progress. Mr. Anderson, the results are encouraging. There's increased neural activity in the areas responsible for vision. We'll begin the second phase of treatment. The second phase involved daily visual therapy sessions. Michael spent hours doing specific exercises, trying to focus on points of light, following patterns with eye movements. Tommy always accompanied him to the sessions, sitting quietly in a chair beside him, doing homework or simply offering moral support. Tommy, you don't have to be here every afternoon. You can play with your friends from school. I'd rather stay here with you, sir. My friends can wait. The boy's dedication touched Michael every day. Tommy had chosen to be there, not out of obligation, but out of genuine love. After 2 months of intensive treatment, something extraordinary happened. Michael was doing his usual exercises when he realized he could distinguish not just light from shadow, but vague shapes. It was like looking through foggy glass, but there were definitely images forming. Dr. Stephen, Michael called out excited. I can see something. They're just shadows, but I can make out shapes. Dr. Stephen was thrilled but tried to maintain his professional composure. Mr. Anderson, this is fantastic, but let's take it slow. Your vision may fluctuate during this process. Some days might be better, others worse. I understand, doctor, but does this mean it could really work? It means your brain is responding beyond our expectations. If we continue at this pace, there's a real chance for significant vision recovery. Michael could barely contain his emotions. He immediately called Emily and Tommy. Sweetheart, I saw shadows today. Blurry shapes, but I could see them. Emily burst into tears of joy on the other end of the line. Dad, that's amazing. I'm coming right over. When Emily and Tommy arrived at the office, Michael could faintly make out their silhouettes. You're standing by the door, right? I can see two figures. Tommy ran to him and grabbed his hand. Mr. Anderson, can you see me? Not clearly, son, but I know you're right here beside me. It was a deeply emotional moment for everyone. Dr. Stephen explained that from this point on, improvement could be gradual and steady, but there might also be setbacks. The important thing is not to have unrealistic expectations. Even if your vision doesn't fully return, the progress is already remarkable. In the following weeks, Michael began to distinguish bold colors and sharper contrasts. He could tell when someone turned on a light or when people walked past the window. Tommy was fascinated by every small improvement. Mr. Anderson, can you see when I'm smiling? I can't make out the details of your face yet, son, but I can see when you shake your head. One day you'll see my whole face. I'm sure I will, Tommy. During this recovery period, Michael reflected a lot on how life had changed since that afternoon when Tommy burst into his office to save Emily. If not for that brave boy, he would have lost his only daughter. If not for Tommy's friendship and dedication, he might never have met old Harold, and perhaps never discovered the possibility of treating his blindness. Emily, I've been thinking about something important, Michael said one morning over coffee. What is it, Dad? I want to officially adopt Tommy. He's the son of my heart, and I want him to be my son legally too. Emily smiled. Daddy, I was waiting for you to say that. Tommy is my brother in every way. It would be perfect to make it official. And what about old Harold? Do you think he'll agree? Let's talk to them. I'm sure they'll be happy. That afternoon, Michael called Tommy and old Harold for a serious conversation. Old Harold, Tommy, I want to make a proposal to you. What kind of proposal, Michael? Asked old Harold. I want to legally adopt Tommy. He's already the son of my heart, and I want you to come live with us permanently. Our house is big, and family should stay together. Tommy was silent for a moment, then began to cry. Do you really want to be my real dad? Very much, son. If you want it too. Tommy threw himself into Michael's arms. I've always wanted to have a dad again. You'd be the best dad in the world. Old Harold was also moved. Michael, you've brought joy back to my grandson. It would be an honor to officially be part of your family. The adoption papers were arranged immediately. Dr. Wilson handled all the legal matters, which were made easier by the fact that old Harold was Tommy's only relative and fully supported the decision. While they waited for the process to be finalized, Michael's vision continued to improve gradually. He could already distinguish faces, though still blurry. Tommy, come here, Michael called one afternoon. Yes, Dad. Tommy had started calling him Dad as soon as they decided on the adoption. I could see you smiling just now, not clearly, but I saw it. Really, Dad? You could see my smile? I did, son. And it was the most beautiful thing I've seen in 15 years. 3 months after starting treatment, Dr. Stevens scheduled special tests to assess his full progress. Mr. Anderson, the results are extraordinary. Your vision has recovered about 70% of normal capacity. It's more than we expected in our most optimistic scenarios. Does that mean I'll keep improving? You may continue improving, yes, but even if it stabilizes at this level, you'll have an excellent quality of life. You can drive, work normally, do all the activities you did before the accident. Michael could hardly believe it. After 15 years of total darkness, he was seeing the world again. On the day of the hearing to finalize the adoption, Michael could clearly see people's faces for the first time since the accident. When the judge called Tommy forward and asked if he agreed to be adopted by Michael Anderson, the boy answered with emotion in his voice. I do, Your Honor. He's been my dad for a long time. Now it's just official. Michael could see the tears of joy on the face of the boy who had saved his family and changed his life forever. After the ceremony, they went home to celebrate with Emily and old Harold. It was the first time Michael had seen his house with his own eyes in 15 years. Emily, the house looks different, Michael remarked. I changed some things to make it easier when you were blind, Daddy. Now I can decorate normally again. No need to change anything, sweetheart. I like it just the way it is. During the celebratory dinner, Michael looked around the table. Emily, now a confident and accomplished executive, Tommy, officially his son, studying at a good school with a bright future ahead. Old Harold recovered from surgery and working actively in the company. "Do you know what the greatest gift I've received was?" Michael asked. "Getting your sight back," guessed Tommy. "No, son, it was learning to see what truly matters in life even before I regained my vision." Emily smiled. "Tommy taught us that, didn't he, Daddy? Tommy taught us so much. Courage, generosity, the value of family. He came into our lives like a gift." Tommy blushed with shyness. "You were also gifts to me. I didn't know I could be this happy." 6 months later, the company was thriving again. Emily had become a respected CEO, Old Harold was the official financial consultant, and Michael had returned to active duty as chairman of the board. Tommy remained the top student in his school and was already talking about studying business to help with the family company in the future. "Dad, when I grow up, I want to work with you," Tommy said one afternoon. "It'll be an honor, son, but first, you'll finish your studies and choose what you truly love to do." "I like numbers and helping people. I think I want to be like Grandpa Harold." The way Tommy referred to Old Harold as Grandpa warmed Michael's heart. They had truly become a complete family. "Doctor," Stephen continued monitoring Michael's vision, which had stabilized at about 85% of normal capacity. "Mr. Anderson, I can say your case will go down in medical history. The recovery has been exceptional." "Doctor, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "What made you interested in my case? You could have ignored Old Harold's request." Dr. Stevens smiled. "Mr. Anderson, I've been a doctor for 20 years. I've seen many difficult cases, many sad situations. When Mr. Harold told me your story, how a 12-year-old boy had saved an entire family, I was moved. I thought if there's so much goodness in the world, I should do my part too." "And you did, Doctor. You gave me back my sight and my life." "No, Mr. Anderson, you had already reclaimed your life before I came along. I only restored your vision." Michael understood what the doctor meant. Tommy had given him back the will to live, a sense of purpose, the ability to love and be loved. His sight was just a bonus. A year after that dramatic afternoon on the terrace, Michael organized a special celebration. He invited everyone who had been part of their journey: Dr. Stephen, Dr. Wilson, the clients and suppliers who had supported them, even some of Tommy's schoolmates. "I'd like to make a toast," Michael said, raising his glass. "A year ago, I thought I had lost everything. Today, I know I've gained far more than I could have imagined." Everyone raised their glasses. "I've gained a daughter who became a fantastic leader, a son who taught me the true meaning of courage, a father-in-law." Michael looked at Old Harold, "who became the father I always wished for, and a family I chose with my heart." "Dad, can I say something too?" Tommy asked. "Of course, son." Tommy stood up, still shy but determined. "A year ago, I was just a boy shining shoes to survive. Today I have a family who loves me. I go to a good school, and I've learned that when we help others, we help ourselves too." Everyone was moved by the boy's words. "And I want to say something to my dad," Tommy continued, looking at Michael. "You always thank me for saving Emily that day, but you don't know that the one who was saved was me. Before I met you, I didn't know what it was like to have a real family." Michael stood up and hugged his son. "Tommy, you didn't just save Emily, you saved all of us." Emily joined the hug, followed by Old Harold. At that moment, Michael was certain his life had taken the right path. In the following months, the Anderson-Perry family, they had decided to combine their last names, thrived in happiness and prosperity. Emily married Dr. Stephen, who had become far more than just the doctor who healed Michael. They had fallen in love during the treatment period, and Michael couldn't have been happier with his daughter's choice. Tommy remained an exemplary student and developed a special passion for financial mathematics. Old Harold had become his mentor in this field, teaching him everything about accounting and administration. "Grandpa, explain again how cash flow works," Tommy would ask on Saturday afternoons. "Of course, my boy. Cash flow is like the blood in the human body. It has to circulate properly for everything to work well." Michael watched these lessons with a smile on his face. Old Harold had found the perfect pupil in Tommy, and Tommy had found in his grandfather a patient and wise teacher. The company had not only recovered but was expanding. Emily had implemented new management strategies, and the combination of Michael's experience with her fresh ideas was yielding excellent results. "Dad, we received an interesting proposal today," Emily said during a family meeting. "What kind of proposal?" "A company from Los Angeles wants to partner with us. It would be our first expansion outside New York City." Michael was proud of how Emily had matured as a businesswoman. "What do you think of the proposal?" "I think we should accept it. But I want to hear everyone's opinion before deciding." "Even mine?" Tommy asked, surprised. "Of course, Tommy. You're as much a part of this family and this company as any of us." The boy grew serious for a moment, thinking, "I think we should accept, but carefully. Grandpa always said growing too fast can be dangerous." Old Harold smiled, proud of his grandson's wisdom. "The boy is right. Expansion is good, but it has to be planned." Michael was impressed by Tommy's business maturity. At 13, the boy already showed an intuitive understanding of management that surprised everyone. The partnership with the Los Angeles company was a success. Within 6 months, they had opened an office in the city and were serving clients across the state. During a trip to Los Angeles to inaugurate the new office, Michael took the whole family. It was their first trip together and also Michael's first time traveling since the accident. "Dad, are you nervous?" Tommy asked on the plane. "A little, son. It's been a long time since I traveled. But now you can see the view from the plane. It must be cool." Michael smiled. Tommy always found the positive side of any situation. "That's true, son, and it'll be special because it's our first family trip." In Los Angeles, Michael was moved to see the ocean for the first time in 15 years. They went to Santa Monica Beach, and Michael watched Tommy playing in the sand with the natural excitement of a child. "Emily, look at Tommy," Michael said to his daughter. "He's worked so hard since he was little that he barely had a childhood. It's good to see him playing like a normal kid." "He deserves it, Dad. And we'll make sure he gets all the opportunities he missed." That night at the hotel, Michael had a special talk with Tommy. "Son, I want you to promise me something." "What is it, Dad?" "Never stop being a child completely. You had to grow up too fast out of necessity, but now you can have a bit of the childhood you lost." "But I like helping with the company, Dad." "And you can keep helping, but you can also play, make friends your age, have fun. Being a child and being responsible aren't things that cancel each other out." Tommy thought for a moment. "Dad, can I tell you a secret?" "Of course, son." "Sometimes I pretend to be more mature than I really am, because I'm afraid you'll think I'm just a useless kid." Michael's heart ached. "Tommy, you are a child, and that's exactly what makes you so special. Your kindness, your generosity, your courage, all of that comes from your pure child's heart. Never be ashamed of your age." "So can I keep liking cartoons?" Michael laughed. "You can like cartoons until you're 100 if you want, son." Back in New York City, life continued its prosperous and happy course. Michael had returned to playing sports. He started with swimming, a sport he could do even with limited vision, and now that he could see well, he had discovered a passion for tennis. Emily and Stephen were trying to have children, and Michael could hardly wait to be a grandfather. Old Harold joked that he would finally have a great-grandchild to spoil. "Mr. Anderson, can you imagine having a little child in the house again?" Old Harold asked. "It'll be wonderful. Tommy is excited to be a big brother." "That boy is going to be the best big brother in the world. He has endless patience and kindness." 2 years after the adoption, Tommy had become the top student in his school. His teachers often remarked on his maturity, responsibility, and especially his empathy for classmates going through tough times. "Mr. Anderson," the school coordinator said in a meeting, "Tommy has a special gift for helping other students. Whenever someone is struggling, he offers support." "That's just who he is," Michael replied proudly. "We'd like to recommend him for a special youth leadership program. It's for students who show leadership potential and social responsibility." Michael was moved. Seeing Tommy recognized for his natural qualities was an indescribable joy. At home, when Michael shared the proposal, Tommy grew shy. "Dad, Do you think I'm good enough for something like that? Tommy, you saved an entire family when you were 12. Of course you're good enough. But what if I don't know what to do? Son, leadership isn't about knowing everything. It's about genuinely caring for people. And you're an expert at that. Tommy agreed to join the program, and it turned out to be a life-changing experience. He met other young people involved in social projects and realized he had so much to contribute. Dad, there's a girl in the program who started a project to teach kids how to read, and a boy who set up a community garden in his neighborhood. I want to do something like that too. What kind of project would you like to do? I want to teach math to kids who work on the streets, like I used to. Math is important so they don't get cheated when selling things. Michael was deeply touched by the idea. Tommy wanted to use his own experience to help other kids in similar situations. That's a beautiful project, son. How can we help? Can I use a room at the company on Saturdays? And maybe Grandpa Harold can help me teach. Of course. Let's make this the best education project in the city. The Math in Practice project started small, with 5 kids Tommy knew from the plaza where he used to work. Old Harold developed the lessons, and Tommy bridged the gap between concepts and the kids' reality. Look, Tommy explained to a 10-year-old girl selling candy at the traffic light. If you buy 100 candies for $15 and sell each for 20 cents, how much do you make? I don't know how to do that math, the girl replied. I'll teach you. 100 candies times 20 cents is $20. Minus the 15 you spent, that's $5 profit. Wow, so I make $5 per bag? Exactly. And if you sell 2 bags a day? $10. Right. See how math is useful in real life? Michael watched these lessons with a heart full of pride. Tommy had found his calling, using education as a tool for social change. The project grew quickly. In 6 months, it served 20 kids. In a year, 50. The company began funding textbooks, snacks, and even uniforms for the children. Tommy, do you know you're changing these kids' lives? Michael said one afternoon, after an especially moving lesson. They're the ones changing my life, Dad. Every child who learns a new math problem reminds me why studying is worth it. At 15, Tommy had become a local reference in social projects. His story, from a shoeshine boy to a young social entrepreneur, inspired people across the city. Michael, now with fully restored vision and a thriving family, looked back with gratitude. That terrible afternoon on the terrace, when he almost lost Emily, had been the beginning of the best phase of his life. Emily, do you remember that day on the terrace? He asked one afternoon. How could I forget, Dad? It was the worst and the best day of my life. Why the best? Because that's when our hero came into our lives, Emily said, looking at Tommy, who was doing homework at the living room table. He's not just our hero, he's our son, our family, our greatest gift. Tommy looked up from his books. You're talking about me again, aren't you? I told you it makes me embarrassed. Michael and Emily laughed. Son, we have every right to be proud of you, Michael said. And I have every right to be proud of you too. You gave me a family, an education, opportunities, but most importantly, you gave me love. Old Harold walked into the room just then. What are you all talking about? We're doing our family's annual recap, Emily said, remembering how it all began. Oh, the recap. Old Harold sat in his favorite armchair. Can I join? Of course, Grandpa, Tommy said. Tell us again how you found out you could help Dad with his vision. Well, I was at the hospital for a routine checkup when I met Dr. Stephen. We started talking, and when I found out he was an ophthalmologist, I thought of Michael. Something told me it was worth a try. And what if Dr. Stephen couldn't help? Tommy asked. Then at least we wouldn't have been left wondering. Better to try and fail than never to try at all. Michael smiled. That simple wisdom from old Harold had changed everything. You know what I've learned these past 3 years? Michael said. Life has a strange way of bringing the right people together at the right time. How so, Dad? Just think, Tommy. If you hadn't decided to help a stranger that day, Emily wouldn't be here. If you hadn't told me about your grandfather, I never would have met Dr. Stephen. If old Harold hadn't been so wise and observant, I might never have gotten my sight back. And if you hadn't been such a great father, I never would have learned what true love is, Tommy added. Emily wiped her eyes. You two are making me cry with this talk. Those are good tears, sweetheart, Michael said. Tears of gratitude. 3.5 years after that dramatic day on the terrace, Michael was in his office when he got a special call. Mr. Anderson, this is the hospital. Your daughter Emily asked me to call. The baby's here. Michael nearly shouted with joy. Is it a boy or a girl? A boy, sir. Born healthy, weighing 7 pounds. Michael hung up and rushed to the next room, where Tommy was studying between classes. Tommy, you're an uncle. He's here? Really? Tommy jumped from his chair. He's here. A beautiful, healthy boy. They hugged, jumping with excitement. Old Harold appeared, wondering what all the commotion was about. Your great-grandson is here, old Harold, Michael announced. Good heavens, I'm finally a great-grandfather. The three of them rushed to the hospital. On the way, Michael thought about how his life had completely transformed. From a blind, lonely, bitter man, he had become a father of 2, father-in-law to a beloved son-in-law, and now a grandfather. At the hospital, Emily was radiant, holding the baby in her arms. Dr. Stevens stood beside her, looking every bit the doting father. Dad, come meet your grandson, Emily said. Michael approached, moved. It was the first time he'd seen a newborn since regaining his sight. He's beautiful, sweetheart. He looks just like you when you were little. His name is Robert Michael Anderson Mitchell. Robert after my maternal grandfather, Michael after you. Michael was moved. Having his name passed down to his grandson was an honor he hadn't expected. Can I hold my nephew? Tommy asked shyly. Of course you can. You're his youngest uncle. Tommy cradled the baby with extreme care. Robert Michael opened his little eyes and seemed to look straight at him. Hi, Robert Michael. I'm your Uncle Tommy. I'll teach you so many things when you grow up. Michael watched the scene with his heart overflowing with happiness. Tommy, who had been deprived of a normal childhood, would now be the most devoted uncle a child could have. Old Harold came closer to meet his great-grandson. What a beautiful baby. He's going to be very smart. I can tell by his bright little eyes. Grandpa, how can you know that? Tommy asked, laughing. Experience, my grandson. I've seen many babies born in my lifetime. That night at home, the family celebrated the arrival of the newest member. It was the first time 4 generations of the family were together. Old Harold, Michael, Tommy and Emily, and now little Robert Michael. You know what I've been thinking? Michael said during the celebratory dinner. What, Dad? That we'll need to extend the dining table. Our family is growing, and it'll grow even more, Emily said with a mysterious smile. What do you mean? Tommy asked. Stephen and I want at least 2 more children, and you, Tommy, will marry and have kids someday too. Tommy turned red. I'm still too young to think about that. But you will one day, Michael said. And when that day comes, I'll be here to meet my grandchildren, by heart. By heart and by blood, Emily corrected. Tommy is our brother in every way. In the following months, Michael proved to be a doting grandfather. He spent hours watching Robert Michael, telling him stories, singing lullabies he'd forgotten he knew. Tommy became the most dedicated uncle possible. Every day after school, he stopped by Emily's house to play with his nephew. Dad, Tommy has more patience with Robert Michael than I do sometimes, Emily remarked one afternoon. He has experience with kids because of the social project, and he has a naturally fatherly heart. I think he'll be a wonderful father when he grows up, Michael agreed. Tommy had inherited the ability to care for others, a trait that showed in everything he did. The Math in Practice project kept growing. Tommy, now 16, had systematized the teaching method and was training other young volunteers to replicate the project in other parts of the city. Dad, I got an interesting offer today, Tommy said one afternoon. What kind of offer? The city wants to officially adopt our project. They're offering financial support and resources to expand it across the whole city. Michael felt proud but also concerned. What do you think about it? I think it would be great for the kids, but I'm afraid the project might lose the personal touch it has now. That's a valid concern, son, but you've learned so much about leadership. I'm sure you'd keep the quality even as it grows. Grandpa Harold said the same thing, that it's time to think big. And do you agree? I think so. If it means helping more kids, it's worth trying. The partnership with the city was a success. Within a year, the project served over 500 children across 10 different locations. Tommy had become a local celebrity of sorts, invited to speak at events about social entrepreneurship. Tommy, do you realize that at 16 you've already done more for society than most people do in a lifetime? Michael said on one such occasion. Dad, I'm just giving back what I received. You all gave me opportunities, now I want to give opportunities to other kids. Do you have any idea how many lives you've already changed? Every child who learns to do math correctly, who understands the value of money, who discovers they can have a better future, that's worth more than any recognition. Michael would get emotional whenever he heard Tommy talk about his work. The boy had found his life's purpose very early and dedicated himself to it with complete passion. At 17, Tommy received a full scholarship to study business administration at one of the best universities in New York City. It was academic recognition for his exceptional journey. Dad, I'm scared, Tommy confessed the night before classes started. Scared of what, son? Of not being smart enough. The other students went to expensive schools their whole lives. I only had access to a good education a few years ago. Michael held his son's hands. Tommy, intelligence isn't just measured by academic knowledge. You have something no school can teach, life wisdom. You know what's important. You know how to work in a team. You know how to lead. That's worth more than any degree. But what if I can't keep up with the coursework? Then you'll study harder, ask for help when you need it, and you'll learn. Just like you've always done in life. Tommy smiled, more at ease. Thanks, Dad. You always know what to say. That's what fathers do, son. They give their children security when they need it. Tommy's enrollment in university coincided with a new expansion phase for the company. Emily had decided to open branches in 3 more states, and Michael became actively involved in management again. Dad, I need your experience for this expansion, Emily said in a meeting. You're doing perfectly fine on your own, sweetheart. But you have the market knowledge I don't yet have, and Tommy, even though he's young, has valuable insights on project management. It was true. Tommy, despite focusing on his studies, still participated in family business meetings, always offering relevant observations. What if we formed an official family board, Michael suggested, with everyone involved in major decisions? That would be perfect, Emily agreed, each of us bringing our own expertise. Old Harold approved the idea. A true family business, with complete transparency among all members. The family board was formalized, with Michael as chairman, Emily as CEO, Old Harold as financial consultant, and Tommy as advisor for social projects. Now we're officially a business family, Tommy joked. And a family business, Michael added. In the following years, the company thrived beyond all expectations. Emily's vision for expansion, combined with Michael's experience, Old Harold's financial wisdom, and Tommy's social awareness, created a unique business model. They were the first in the region to implement structured social programs as part of their corporate strategy. Every new branch included an educational project modeled after the Math in Practice project. Dad, our company is becoming a benchmark for social responsibility, Emily remarked in a meeting. And it all started with Tommy's project, Michael said proudly. No, Dad, Tommy corrected. It all started when you taught me that family takes care of family. The rest was a consequence. When Tommy graduated from university at 21, he was the class speaker. His speech moved the entire audience. 5 years ago, I was a boy working on the streets to survive. Today, I graduate from one of the best universities in the country. This was only possible because a family adopted me and taught me that education is the most powerful tool to transform lives. I dedicate this diploma to all the children still out there, working when they should be studying. My commitment is to use everything I've learned to create opportunities for them, Michael cried throughout the entire speech. Seeing that boy grow into a well-educated, articulate young man committed to solid values was the greatest fulfillment of his life as a father. After graduation, Tommy officially took over as Director of Social Projects at the company. His first initiative was to create a scholarship fund for children in vulnerable situations. "I want every child in our programs to have the chance to go to college," Tommy explained to the family board. "It's a big investment," old Harold remarked. "It's an investment in the future," Tommy corrected. "Every child we educate can transform an entire family." The scholarship program was unanimously approved. Michael knew Tommy was right. Education was the investment with the highest possible social return. 5 years after Tommy's graduation, the company had grown into a corporate group with headquarters in 5 states. The scholarship program had already benefited over 1,000 children, and many of them were following in Tommy's footsteps, creating their own social projects. Michael, now 65, decided it was time to officially retire. "Emily, it's time for you to fully take over as president," he announced at a family meeting. "Dad, you're still in great shape. Why retire now?" "Because I want more time with my grandson. I want to travel with old Harold. I want to see Tommy get married and have children. I want to enjoy the family we've built." Tommy smiled. "Dad, about that marriage thing. There's something I want to tell you." Everyone leaned in. "I've met someone special. She's a teacher working on one of our projects. Her name is Rachel." Michael was moved. It was the first time Tommy had ever spoken about a romantic interest. "Tell us more about her, son." "She's 23, has a degree in education, and shares my passion for social work. She's been with the project for 2 years and, well, we fell in love." Emily was curious. "And when do we get to meet her officially?" "If you agree, I'd like to bring her over for dinner on Sunday." "Agreed," they all said in unison. Michael couldn't wait to meet the young woman who had won his son's heart. If she shared Tommy's values, she would surely be a wonderful addition to the family. On Sunday, Rachel arrived for dinner. She was a beautiful young woman, but what impressed Michael most was her intelligence and social commitment. Throughout the conversation, she showed deep knowledge of their educational projects and had innovative ideas to expand them. "Rachel," Michael asked during dinner, "what motivated you to work in social education?" "Mr. Michael, I grew up in a poor neighborhood and had teachers who changed my life. I always knew I wanted to do the same for other children. When I met Tommy's project, I saw he thought exactly like me." "And what impresses you most about Tommy's work?" "His humanity. He doesn't see the children as social projects. He sees them as people with potential. It makes a difference." Michael approved completely. Rachel had captured the essence of what made Tommy special. After dinner, Tommy asked to speak with Michael privately. "Dad, what did you think of her?" "I thought she was wonderful, son. Smart, committed, and most importantly, she truly loves you. I could see it in the way she looked at you." "Dad, I want to propose to her." Michael was emotional. "You have my blessing, son, and I know you'll be very happy with her." "I want to do it in a special way. I'm thinking of proposing at one of the project's schools, with the kids involved." "That would be perfect. Rachel will be so moved." The proposal happened on a Saturday afternoon during a lesson for the Math in Practice project. Tommy had arranged with the children to hold a special math lesson of the heart. When Rachel arrived for class, the children began solving math problems that together formed the question, "Rachel, will you marry Mr. Tommy?" Rachel was moved to tears. When she realized what was happening, Tommy knelt in the middle of the room, with all the children applauding. "Rachel, will you marry me and build a family together dedicated to transforming lives through education?" "Yes," Rachel answered, crying with joy. The children erupted in celebration. Michael, who was watching hidden by the door, also cried with emotion. Tommy had found the perfect partner for his life's journey. The wedding was set for 6 months later. It would be held at the neighborhood church where Tommy grew up, with the reception at the company's event hall. He insisted it be accessible so all the children from the projects could attend. During the preparations, Michael reflected on the incredible journey they had lived. From a family shattered by tragedy and blindness, they had become a prosperous, united family committed to strong values. "Old Harold," Michael said one afternoon, Can you imagine where we'd be if Tommy hadn't come into our lives? I don't even want to think about it, Michael. That boy saved us all. And now he's building his own family. The circle is completing itself. And what a beautiful circle it is, isn't it? From suffering to joy, from separation to unity, from selfishness to generosity. Michael agreed. The transformation had been complete and lasting. On the wedding day, Michael was Tommy's best man. Seeing him at the altar, elegant in his suit, waiting for Rachel to enter, Michael remembered the 12-year-old boy who had appeared desperate in his office. "Dad, thank you for everything," Tommy whispered, moments before the ceremony began. "Thank you, son, for teaching us what unconditional love is." When Rachel entered, beautiful in her white dress, Michael saw the future unfold before him. Grandchildren arriving, social projects expanding, a family growing in love and purpose. During the reception, Michael gave a heartfelt speech. 10 years ago, a brave boy saved my daughter from tragedy. Today, that boy has become a man who dedicates his life to saving other children from the tragedy of lost opportunities. Tommy, you started as our hero and became our son. Now you're becoming a husband, and soon you'll be a father. I'm certain your children will have the privilege of having the most loving and devoted father in the world. The celebration was magical. Children from the projects mingled with business people and educators in a truly inclusive gathering. Exactly the kind of event Tommy and Rachel wanted, a union that reflected their values. During their honeymoon, a trip through the Northeast visiting educational projects, Michael stayed behind to manage the business with Emily. It felt good to be useful, but he was also eager to retire fully and dedicate himself to being a full-time grandfather. Robert Michael, now 5 years old, was the joy of the house. Smart and curious like his mother, but with the natural kindness that seemed to be a family trait. "Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to work with Uncle Tommy," Robert Michael said one afternoon. "Why, sweetheart?" "Because he helps kids who don't have a mom or dad, and I want to help too." Michael was moved. The new generation was already embracing the family's values. "I'm sure you'll help many people, Robert Michael." When Tommy and Rachel returned from their honeymoon, they had special news. "Family, we have an announcement," Tommy said during Sunday dinner. "I'm pregnant," Rachel announced, beaming. The table erupted in celebration. Michael was going to be a grandfather again. Old Harold, a great-grandfather, Emily an aunt, and Robert Michael a cousin. "When is the baby due?" Emily asked excitedly. "In 7 months," Rachel replied. "Is it a boy or a girl?" Robert Michael wanted to know. "We don't know yet, cousin, but it doesn't matter. You'll have a cousin to play with." Michael watched the scene with infinite gratitude. The family that had begun with tragedy was now multiplying in joy. During Rachel's pregnancy, Michael formalized his retirement. Emily took full leadership of the business group. Tommy focused on expanding the social projects, and Michael devoted himself to writing his memoirs. "Why are you writing your memoirs, Dad?" Emily asked one afternoon. "To document how a family can transform when it opens itself to true love. Our story needs to be told. Will you include everything from the beginning? From the day I almost lost you on the terrace to today. The full story of how Tommy saved us and how we saved him too." Michael wanted future generations to know where they came from and the values that held their family together. The baby was born on a spring morning, a beautiful girl named Hope Rachel Anderson Perry. Hope for the transformation she represented, Rachel in honor of her mother. "Dad," Tommy said, holding his newborn daughter, "I want you to be her godfather." Michael was moved to tears. "It would be an honor, son. And I want her to grow up knowing our family's full story, how we went from pain to joy, from separation to unity. She will know, Tommy, and she'll be proud of the family she has." As he cradled his granddaughter, Michael reflected on the entire journey. 15 years of blindness had turned into 15 years of clear vision. A suicide attempt had become the start of a new life. An orphaned boy had become the heart of a thriving family. "Little Hope," Michael whispered to the baby, "you were born into a special family. A family that learned true love can heal any wound and overcome any obstacle. The baby opened her tiny eyes and seemed to look straight at him, as if understanding every word. That night, Michael said a prayer of gratitude. He thanked the blindness that taught him to see what truly mattered. He thanked the near despair that brought Tommy into his life. He thanked the hardships that bound their family unbreakably. But most of all, he thanked Tommy, the brave boy who had grown into a man of integrity, a devoted father, and proof that pain could be turned into purpose. At 67, Michael Anderson could look back without regret and forward with hope. He had built more than a thriving business. He had created a legacy of love, education, and social transformation that would last generations. And it had all started with a 12-year-old boy who had the courage to take his hand and ask him to open his eyes. The end. What did you think of this story of transformation and family love? Share in the comments what moved you most and whether you believe love can truly change lives, as it did for Michael and Tommy. If this story touched your heart, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other inspiring stories like this one.